I wonder
Yeah,
if the instant funded attracts a better trader, someone that's confident they know what they're doing. Say, yeah, I don't need to take a combine. I'll even pay a little bit more to just skip that and
right,
save the time. You know what I mean?
right. When you go live with us, you're able to take it's literally like you're trading your own account. Like there's no daily loss limit rules. There's no consistency rule. You can take if you made $1,000 today, you can at the end of the day reconciliation, you can withdraw that $1,000. The next day, if you do it, you can withdraw it. Like same, just like your own account, pretty much.
Were you not really concerned with how crowded the space kind of is becoming with so many CFD firms and so many futures firms? Like, how did those obstacles get processed by you and your team?
Are you really evaluating traders, or are you just making it one step harder to get to the funded account, right? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to trade the same way on those evals as they are on funded. No. And that's a fact. And everybody pretty much can say that.
What's up, boys? Today, I'm talking to Brett Simba. He's the CEO of Tradeify, a new futures funding firm, and I'm really excited to have him here. We talk all about the instant funding model, which I know a lot of you guys are taking advantage of and loving it so far. We talk about the Twitter beef. We talk about a lot. It's very easy to talk to Brett. We're like very similar in our upbringing. He's from Jersey. I'm from Jersey. So it's a good conversation. I think you guys are going to love it. Big shout out to Brett and Tradeify. Thank you guys for giving us the time and making this episode happen. I appreciate you guys, our listeners, as always. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And now enjoy my conversation with the man himself, Mr. Brett Simba. Quick 10-second thank you to Edgeful for being the sponsor of today's video. If you're looking for a new edge in markets, in Forex, in stocks, in crypto, or in futures, check out Edgeful. There's a link in the description. And now let's get back to the video. All right, traders, we're back. We've got a very special episode today. I've got Brett Simba here to talk about his new firm. This instant funding thing is kind of taken over the industry, and Brett's here to shake things up. So, Brett, thanks for coming on, man. How are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on, Austin. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a new thing, but I'm happy to be here, happy to talk about stuff, and just happy to meet you as well.
Unscripted, no pre-planned questions. We're going to rock with this, everybody. I'm really excited to talk to Brett. He's around the same age as me. We're like at a similar point in life. So it's kind of cool to see somebody else cutting a different path through trading and really disrupting the industry a little bit. We'll talk about, this prop funding model, I think, in a little bit, Brett, but I want to kind of edify you, like I said in the beginning. I want to give you a chance to let everybody know a little bit about your background. I think you're just getting started building a name for yourself in the industry, and I'm excited to have you here to be a part of that too. So I hope this, really does good and gets more people interested in the instant funding model, because so far I'm really loving it, and a lot of the people that I'm trading with are loving it as well. So let's talk about it. I know it's funny, everybody. He's from Jersey, like me. So you moved down to Florida a couple of years ago for school, and you stayed, never went back.
Yep. So, background on me, I was in Jersey pretty much my whole life until I went to college a couple years at Rider. From there, I transferred to FAU with a couple of my best friends. Once we finished there, kind of just stayed down here. And work history for me, I right out of college, I got I kind of delayed my college because I was taking a couple of classes rather than I don't know, five or was it normal 5 or 6 that usually take a semester.
Usually.
I was only doing like 2 or 3 because I got a job as a insurance salesman. And to be honest, you don't need any, besides your license, you don't need any, degree, anything like that. And it's pretty good freaking money. So I grinded that out.
Who are you selling with?
So I did a bunch. I did
definitely did Northwestern Mutual.
I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't do Northwestern Mutual. No. I was working with health markets. It was mostly health insurance for the most part. Life insurance was like the.
So I was doing life insurance again. Another
add on to it.
Another parallel, bro. I was doing life insurance, same exact time as you. So that's so funny.
Oh my god, this guy. He's just basically my clone at this point.
It's crazy, bro. All right, so now as you moved out of that, were you trading options at that point already? Because I know we talked about that before.
Yeah, so basically, I started that like 2015 or so. And I was working in phone room offices, and it's like you see in the Wolf of Wall Street type thing. I mean, that's stocks obviously, but it's the same thing for insurance. Like if you got a cool office, cool boss, like everybody standing up, like messing around while you're on the phones and stuff. So I pretty much I was one of the top reps there. I had script memorized. I was good at talking with people, etc. So I was able to kind of research and do things on the side at my desk while I was still working, and my boss couldn't say shit to me because at the end of the day, I was putting up numbers for him. and he
That's
knew
all
that I
that
was still
matters.
performing. So he didn't mind either. So this was like 2017. I've been there a few years now, and this is during like the first crypto boom, right? And I think that's when a lot of people got into trading. So this
Yep.
is when I first like got into it. I was looking online. One of my, I don't forget if it was one of my buddies. Yeah, one of my buddies. He found some guy who was selling basically one of the first discords. It was a Slack then, and it was like, showing you how to read a chart, like giving signals when to buy and sell. And this was the first time I ever heard of that. And I was like, there's like little stuff like this. Like I thought this was like hedge fund stuff, or like only like certain people can do this, right? So
Right.
this was like the baby step, or the first birth of like Discord, Slack, all that, Telegram, right? All that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
We both paid like $1,000 membership fee to join. We were in there for like months. The market was booming. It was great. He was posting charts left and right. This guy, um, I don't know if his name's Eric Cho. He ended up being a scammer, so I didn't
Oh,
know if I should say his name right now. But anyway, um, it's all right.
I've never heard of him.
He basically, he was posting charts and everything was going up, so it didn't matter like what you bought.
You
Like,
couldn't be
everything
wrong.
was working. It's like
Right.
you could. It was like back in the day when you could just throw a dartboard at anything, right? You could post any chart, it would work out as long as you were long. So
It was a
it was
crazy bull
great
market.
until, exactly. So, and it was great, and it was in the euphoria mode until like the big collapse, right? So
Yep.
after that, that's when we realized like this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He started asking like questions that were like very easily answerable, or like you should have the basic knowledge about. He didn't understand. So like we realized we kind of like got like gypped a little bit, right?
Yep.
Rewind a little bit in between those two things. I actually, towards when the bear market started, before we like decided, this guy didn't know what he was doing, I started trading options because I wasn't seeing those big gains as much in crypto moving up, because the market started to get choppy a bit at the highs and then just dump. So I was like, I don't know really how to short and do all this. So I need to find some other way, that I can make these huge gains that I was able to do. And keep in mind, I was not making money at all. I was making great money at my job, but every check that I put in, I would double it, lose it all, double it, lose it all. And I feel like that's most of the traders who started around then who are still lasting now, at least,
100%.
or maybe gave
100%.
up.
Yep.
But that was the beginning, and so I don't even know. I wish I could remember, because I feel like it's a key part of my life. How I found options, I really don't know, unfortunately. But I started trading them, and this was during like the weed bubble. So like, you had Tilray, CGC going to like $300. They're like $1 now.
It's
Not getting
crazy.
split,
It's
just like
crazy.
destroyed stocks. Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
we were making some insane money in there, and the guy had an options channel. So he made me a
Mm.
moderator because I was posting some good signals and doing all that and stuff. So like I was getting good at it. I was learning how to do it. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, you're charging 1,000 a month. Anyway, you can pay me maybe, 2,000 on the side. I'm basically opening up your addressable market here by not only having crypto, but now I run pretty much options, because you don't post much at all. And he was like, I started this business from nothing, blah 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 blah. I don't think I can do that. And I'm like, what? And like every week, I'm seeing like 100 or more people joining the option, because you can see the members that are
So
in
you
there. And
know
I'm
he's
like,
making money.
I know he's making money. Like you can afford, and especially now having been in the business, like you could have afforded that, man. Like what the hell? Didn't
Very
make sense.
selfish.
So yeah, exactly. So there were a couple, there were guys in the chat where you could we could start a DM because it was Slack,
Yeah.
very easily. So there were a couple guys that I was in the chat with there that I met, and we were kind of learning options together, learning how to do charts together, etc. And them and I basically said, like, why are we here? Like, let's just make our own little thing. We didn't think about charging people at first, but we did it, and that's kind of how we started Simba stock. So I started
There you
that.
go.
I brought them on. I built up a team there, and over the years, I kind of did a couple of different businesses. Like I merged with someone, split off. But I did the whole Signal thing pretty much like 2018 until Signal and education thing until about 2022, pretty much. I kind of did a little bit last year as well, but kind of got burnt out. I find that most people who've started like 5 years is the burnout, like right around there, like doing it 4 or 5 years. And it sucks because I actually burnt out right when like Reels got hot, which was 2022. And like that's when like socials just blew up for everybody.
So
So,
that's why you seem new to me and a lot of people is because of that. So now it
yes,
makes a little more sense. Okay. So now
yes.
I understand because your
But a
background, as you're
lot of these
explaining all this,
groups,
bro, I'm like, then why haven't we crossed paths before? Because like we
yeah,
came up at basically the same time. But now I understand, especially if you weren't doing short form content. Because like you said, short form is what blew me up from
wasn't there.
2021 to 20 to now, really. Yeah. The short form is what
Exactly. Yeah.
people like you said to me, people love my editor and the reels. Like the short form is killing it for me. So we'll get some
Right.
good clips out of this today. But bro, that was a great explanation of your background. And
Yeah.
I think it gives people a good understanding for some of the stuff we're going to talk about later about what you're doing with options and how that ties into Tradeify. So let's just skip to that if we can real quick. Talk about the inception of
Yeah.
Tradeify. You mentioned you have some partners. Were you looking at the industry and saying, you know what, there's a hole here. There's an area that we can step in and fill. Let's try to create a product that isn't really out yet. Were you not really concerned with how crowded the space kind of is becoming with so many CFD firms and so many futures firms?
Hmm.
Like, how did those obstacles get processed by you and your team?
Yeah. So it's funny because we actually all traded Top Step like back in, I don't know, 2020 or no, like 20, even like 2019. I forget. I tweeted the other day like a picture of the first support ticket that I put in. I don't remember what year it was. And I was like, hey, my account is. I asked one of those stupid questions that everybody that now like I get
It's
asked.
so
I'm like,
funny.
oh my god, why did I ask that? Right, like one
Yep.
of those support tickets that's like right on the website, something like that.
Yep.
And they're I still think they're like the godfather of the space. Like back then, man, it was two steps. You had to pass two evaluations. You have to wait like 10 days and then you get your funded account. Like
Yep.
crazy. Like
Yep.
compared to now, right? Now everything's
Yep.
instant gratification.
It's crazy.
And I think that's due to in part the TikTok world we live in. TikTok and Reels, they've had the attention, the human
They're
brain
screwing with
attention
our
span
brains,
tweaked.
bro. Yeah, they're making us want short-term gratification even more.
Exactly. And
Yep.
it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like you're either gonna get sucked into it or learn from it, use it, but it is what it is. That's where we
Yep.
are. But it's
Yep.
funny because we decided to actually we've been working on Tradeify since 2021, end of 2020. We had the idea, we overcomplicated the hell out of it legal wise, in terms of like how the structure would work, different things would work.
With you and your
We
partners,
didn't
or
understand
with like
everything.
the way it would work for customers? What's up, traders? Before we continue with today's episode, I want to let you know of something very special that we have going on right now. If you want to join the Black Shirt Club, which is our mentorship group, for 4 months instead of the usual 3 months, now is the time to book your call, get on my calendar, and let's see if you're a good fit. If you want results like this here and this, the Black Shirt Club is probably going to be a good fit for you. Now, it is not for everyone because of the time commitment. We need you trading with us. We need you doing daily report cards. We need you in the conversation. You've got to give time to your private weekly coaching call. But if you can do those things and you're really serious about taking your trading to the next level, click the link in the description or above my head, book a free call with me, and let's see if the Black Shirt Club is a good fit for you. Now let's get back to the video.
For us, like incorporation, like how
Got
to
it.
set up
Got it.
the businesses, like uh funded traders, does that need something separate than the actual
Got
simulation,
it.
et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Sure.
And I wasn't like fully knowledgeable about everything back then either, because I was only doing it like a year or two, and that kind of got put on the back burner for a bit, only because we were just slowly working on it. It wasn't like a main priority. We were like, hey, like we can do this eventually. And I got into a couple other businesses, like my Simba stocks business really took off after like that 2020, 2021, COVID hype. So this was before COVID. We decided to do this. So once COVID hit, like I just focused on Simba stocks because that was just the best business that was flowing right now. My two of my partners are actually from Simba stocks, two of the admin in there. They're not influencers or
Nice.
anything, so
Nice.
dropping their names wouldn't matter. But they these are two of my guys that I've known for 5 years, 5+ years now. So it's not like I bootstrap this with random people or
Right.
anybody that I didn't know, or we didn't take on any investors, right? It's just us three. So
Yep.
we're happy to say that, because we've been around in the space long. But yeah, so we and over those 3-4 years, because we started working on this again like end of 2023. I learned a lot. Like, we had Apex come out, we had all these forex firms, we have all these futures prop firms, random ones, right? So, like you said, space got crowded. But when space gets crowded, you're able to what? Evaluate the market more, right? So I'm able to see like different types of offerings here. the longevity of the company here. You can kind of gauge how many people are trading there. Like, I'm not going to know the raw statistics of
Of
one
course.
firm compared to Top Step or another
Right.
compared to another, right? But you can
Right.
see on social people talking about it. You can kind of gauge, how many people are going there. I can look up Google Analytics, different things, people going on the website, right? But
Yeah.
so it's all good information for us to collect, and we felt like, hey, now's a time where maybe we can take all this info that we've gathered. We've seen what works. We've seen what people don't like. We've seen what people like. We know it's an ever growing market. Futures market is probably the biggest growing market. A lot of options traders even are switching over, right? And
Yep.
trading in general, the market's growing.
Yep.
So, we decided, let's go, let's circle back and take this thing head on. Let's take it serious. I kind of burnt out from the other businesses I had, like I told you. And I wanted to do something that, I won't say this is a faceless brand because here I am, but it isn't around me, right? Simba Stocks is Brett Simba. Like, everything else that I want to do now, I want to make it faceless. I have a family now, I want to have more time. Still
Yep.
about the grind, still love grinding and working, but you want to kind of get away from it being yourself, because then you're
I
not
feel
building
you on
something.
that, bro.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
100%. I think
So
anyone that puts their name on something and it becomes even mildly successful ends up thinking, oh, I could have probably fucking done this without my name on it and would be a lot less. Yeah.
exactly,
Yep. There's just some
exactly.
some
So
cons to it that people don't think
and
about. No.
and
So I
and
totally
and
understand.
even if you don't put your name on it, right? If you're the key, it's almost like they have like a thing you used to sell, like key employee insurance,
Yep.
and it doesn't necessarily pertain to this, but like you wouldn't even be able to get a policy with this,
No.
because you're not only the key employee, you're like the key employee.
You're the
You know
only
what I
thing.
mean? Like,
Right.
your name
Right.
might not be on it, but like you're the quadruple key employee. Like, without you,
Yeah.
it falls, right? Or it doesn't grow.
Yeah.
So,
So it's very
um,
interesting that the
yeah,
idea for Tradeify was born before COVID and just didn't come to
yeah.
fruition until now. And so like
And dude,
was it
we are shooting ourselves in the head
yeah,
about
but you know
that
what? Like
because
you said, you can't live like that. But
can't.
you know what's but what I was going to say is it's interesting because you come out with a model that only really one other firm in the
Yep.
future space has. So
Mm-hmm.
how did what is the timing and the coincidence of that looking like? Where like the idea died,
Yeah.
the idea you explained how it came back to life, but how does it come back to
Mm-hmm.
life and it has this new feature? Where did you come up with the
Yeah.
thought of like we need
So
instant funding as an option?
right. So we actually we didn't even like have this on the agenda at all. We've only recently heard of instant funding for, I don't know, 3 months now or 4 months. We launched officially about a little over a month, I think a month and a day ago now.
Yep.
So the first couple weeks, we did not even have instant funding. We saw it. We did not launch with it. The only thing that we had were the normal, evaluation, pass here, then go funded, right? We had two different options there because there's two popular options, which we see as they're the similar path, but two different things is, and I think the biggest rule or hardest rule or biggest differentiator for a lot of plans is end of day drawdown or trailing or intraday drawdown, right? Both trailing, but those are very, very two different things. There's probably the biggest differentiators between a plan is that rule specifically, or how it's calculated, right? Because there's traders who like to trade during the day and raise their stops. There's traders who like to take profit quicker. There's traders who like to put something at break even and let it play out, right? If with an intraday, if it goes all the way up and then it comes back to break even, you could fail the account, right? But on an end of day, you're still good. So we didn't see anybody. This was our first approach. We didn't see anybody offering both types. So we wanted to be the one-stop shop because there wasn't a single firm, at least that we saw at first. Well, there was maybe one or two, but they didn't have a lot of traffic. They didn't have a good site design, from our opinion, etc. There wasn't anyone that could be that one-stop shop. So we wanted to try to do that because it allows traders to come to this platform and have multiple choices, right? Different offerings that aren't just account sizes, right?
Yeah.
Or that aren't just, the payout structure. It's actually the rules, right? So, that to us, that was the way that we would be able to kind of draw on the market and say, hey, like, we have what's available here. We're going to think of new offerings on the way, but we have the two most popular ones to start. In addition to that, there is no influencer ran futures firm. There wasn't. There still isn't now, to my knowledge. There's nobody that's really public facing about it, and that's the owner. I think there's a couple coming, but they were only Forex, and that didn't work out good. And that is also why in 2023 we delayed this because of the whole Forex collapse,
Right.
right?
Because everything hit the fan.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we actually were working on this, and we just started working on it middle of 2023 to like push for an end of 2023 launch. And when the prop firm collapse happened, we were like, whoa, let's put the brakes on this. Like, we want to
Of
make sure
course.
like regulation and everything and it doesn't bleed over to the futures market, because like
For
we don't want
sure.
to spend all this money on the business and getting it going if it's not going to work. So that is another reason why we kind of waited out at least that year, which I forgot to mention. But we went into this, 2024. I think we started the beginning of the year. We grinded it out for like 6 to 8 months of testing, development work, site design, ideas. And we saw the instant funding model. I know kind of going over the whole circle, but this is the whole business, right? So
Yeah.
how you get here is evaluating what you had, right? Taking those risk parameters, the data that you're getting from that, and then applying new numbers that you would attempt or not attempt, expect to see from instant funding models, right? Because at the end of the day, these companies, they all run on data. You're going to be able to survive the longevity by operating and seeing, how you can adjust your prices, your offerings, how you are going to structure getting traders on, moving them to live, etc. So we felt we were in the right spot with our data. I will say we were looking at making maybe being like uh, a tech provider. You see these companies that like start prop firms for other people in Forex. We were thinking of doing
Yep.
that in futures. And there's a couple companies who do it now. Um, and we still might, look to do that in the future. But we set up our business in order to be able to handle multiple firms. And I think that's what sets us apart is we didn't just start this like, hey, we're going to be a firm. We started this like, hey, we could be a firm and also manage other firms. So we have the capacity right now to analyze data as well as take what we're given and, make adjustments, change our offerings, do new offerings as needed. And I
Right
think that's
now,
what sets us apart.
no, it's a great answer. Right now, what's the most popular offering? Is the instant funding thing attracting people the
100%
most?
instant funding.
Yeah, it has to
100%
be
is the
because that's
instant
the
funding.
differentiator. So it is new, but it is
Correct.
exciting. What's really interesting about it is the pricing, right? Like
Yes.
if you can get an instant funded account for the same it would cost you to activate a challenge and then passing a
Yep.
challenge, so to speak, why if you're a confident trader, why wouldn't you take the instant funding route? So I would be curious to stack up after you guys are a little bit older, right? Like maybe a year or a year and a
Mm-hmm.
half, 2 years from now, stack it up and say, the guys who are instant funded versus the guys even within your own firm who are not taking the instant funded,
Mm-hmm.
who's got the better group of traders? You know what I'm saying? I wonder if
Yeah.
the instant funded attracts a better trader, someone that's confident they know what they're doing. Say, yeah, I don't need to take a combine. I'll even pay a little bit more to just skip that and
Right.
save the time. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's something that we're tracking. We have, like I said, we have our analytics set up where we can see,
Yeah, we could tell.
by account.
You're saying it nicely, but basically you're saying we got our data on point. Like we're tracking everything. We
Yeah,
know everything about every single data point that we could know.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You want to see like what you want to see, what are your best traders getting? Like, because the goal is to move everyone to live. I want to say this, 100%. Our goal, and I think we're one of the only firms that has a clear path to live. Like we say exactly when, you will. There's different parameters, and I can go over those as well.
Yeah.
I'd pull it
Yeah.
up just because we changed it 2 weeks ago, so I just want to make sure I read it right.
For
But
sure.
we do have these goals right now where we want to have traders moved to live, as they are taking multiple payouts. And essentially, when you have like capped payouts, because there are capped payouts on these, it's allowing you to evaluate that trader, right? And see when they're essentially, and another thing is a 20% consistency rule. That's something that these instant funding models have. That's so you want traders to be taking profit. You want them to be more consistent than they would if they had like a 50% rule, right? Because at that point, you could have a windfall trade, take a couple small trades, another windfall trade, and withdraw. And that's not somebody you want to copy. That's not somebody who's going to last in the long term. That's somebody who might get a payout real quick, right? But that is not somebody we're looking for as a firm. And our goal as a firm is to find the most live traders we can get to put them onto live, because we have a system in place as well to copy those live traders. I think a lot of people don't think of the other ways that businesses monetize, prop firms monetize, which is copying their live traders as well, right? So if you're able to, make 1,000 a day, trading a couple, let's say 2 contracts of NQ, throughout the day. If we're 2 or 3xing that, we're taking 4 or 6 contracts whenever you're taking 2, and we're able to increase our revenue based off of that as well. And the way we evaluate you again is with our data, as well as, the number of payouts you get, which is why when you get a certain number of payouts, you're able to go live, because at that point we feel you're vetted in order for us to put our money behind you as well. Live capital, copying you 2, 3x, etc.
A lot of good information there, a lot of questions in my head. So first, let's just go back for a second. No, it's
And I
good.
know I go on rants, so
No,
yeah,
but it's good. So that's why I'm jumping in to
feel
catch
free
you
to
off.
interrupt.
Dude, you know what's funny? That's fine because I like the rants. The audience will always comment no matter what I do, bro. I let everybody finish their sentences as best I can, but I still get one comment per episode. Austin, shut the fuck up and let the guy talk. And it's like, do you know how hard it is? Because like I got
Yeah,
questions as we're going here. You know what I'm saying? Because
they might be
you're
saying that
making
to me.
no, but they're going
They
to be
might be
saying it to both
saying
of us, and
like,
it's fine. But fuck them,
interrupt
bro.
him and ask a
Fuck them.
question
They're
about
listening
this.
to us, bro. It's fine. It's good. We're the hosts. We're running the show here. All right. So the justification of the capped payouts
Yeah,
and the justification, well, that in itself, you kind of said there is a reason that you're saying is because we're capping your payouts to evaluate you. We're doing the 20% consistency rule to evaluate you, to see if you're good enough
right,
for a live. So you're using the capped payouts and the 20% consistency rule to really say, we want to see you over a long period of time to decide
right.
if we want to put you into a live account. Hey traders, Futures 101 is available for free right now. There's a link in the description. Click down below, check that out, and now enjoy the rest of this video.
Correct. And the problem is, and I recently got into this a little bit on Twitter. I don't know if you saw. I think you did,
No.
but we won't mention it. But you can check there if you want. But basically, I was talking about the regular model of the evaluation and then going funded, right? And then how a lot of people will justify it and say, hey, well, we want to evaluate you, excuse me, on that model. And the first step is the evaluation. Like, we don't want to put you to a funded account until you get there. But then they have half the amount of rules on the evaluation. They let you pass in 1 day or 2 days. And again, I'm not talking down on these plans, because again, we do have these plans, where it's you can pass in 1 day. Those are our advanced and growth plans, which are the first two I spoke about. But if you only offer those, right, are you really evaluating traders, or are you just making it one step harder to get to the funded account, right? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to trade the same way on those evals as they are on funded.
No.
And that's a fact. And everybody pretty much can say that.
I talk about it all the time. No,
For
why would
everybody
you?
to do that.
Right. Right. Okay. So again, I don't know if I can disagree with that point. It's a mental thing. The point that you're saying is to really evaluate someone, you wouldn't put less rules in the first phase. You would put more rules. You would make it harder in the initial phase, 20% consistency versus a higher number, so on and so forth. Capped payouts right. Yep. So things like that to actually put constraints on someone to see how good they do under those constraints. If they can follow those rules, then they would be considered by you guys a decent enough trader for a live account potentially. So let me just skip to, this is going to be a question I know someone's going to ask. What would be the benefits of trading a live account with you guys? I believe it's after 6 payouts, correct? That's when you're going to start to be considered for a live account. So what would be the benefit of being live with you? Because that's what everybody says about all the other firms. There's no benefit to it.
Right. So I mean, when you go live with us, you're able to take it's literally like you're trading your own account. Like there's no daily loss limit rules. There's no consistency rule. You can take, if you made $1,000 today, you can, at the end of the day, reconciliation, you can withdraw that $1,000. The next day, if you do it, you can withdraw it. Like same, just like your own account, pretty much. From there, the only requirement is you keep your balance above zero. So not a lot of people have been moved to live. So when you go live, it's not, let's say you have a 50,000 account and, you get moved to live with, I don't know, 3,000. You have $53,000 in the account when you get moved to live.
So you move 3K into a live account. That was going to be my next question too. How do you figure out their starting live account balance? But okay, so then you get whatever you have left in that account that you've been trading, that either straight to funded or whatever it was, that gets moved into the live account then. And after you've taken multiple payouts.
So we have two different approaches to that. And it's a bit tough to explain, I think, without reading it multiple times. So I would direct everybody to like our help center that goes over this. But essentially, we do have two different ways. There's one where you have to make a choice in the beginning, like after it's 8 payouts that we have, you make the choice about. Once you get 8 payouts, you can make the choice to move to live. If you choose to do so, you're put into a live account with whatever the drawdown for that account is with that amount. Now, there's a lot of people who say, well, what about all the profits, I have above there? Because, what a lot of people do is they'll stack up, $50,000, $40,000 in these sim accounts, and they're not even able to withdraw the profits. They're only taking, they're taking 2,000 at a time until they get to that point where they unlock it. And it's a very small percentage of traders that get a payout that even do that. And already there's a small percentage of traders who do that. So what we did is we made another rule where if you get let me see here. I think it's 16. Just want to make sure. Leave it. Yeah, 16 payouts. You're mandatorily moved to live with whatever amount you have above your starting balance. Now, that isn't to say that you have to wait until 16 payouts. Let's say you get to the 10th payout, right? When you get to your 10th payout, we have the option to tell you, hey, we want to move you to live. So we'll forcibly move you to live. However, we will give you all of the balance above your drawdown at that point because you didn't decide to do it. We forced you. We have to give you a benefit of that, right?
Got it.
Now,
Fair.
I don't know
I mean,
why
that seems
anybody
pretty
would not want to
reasonable.
go live. I don't
Well, yeah,
know
I mean,
why anybody
especially
would.
you're saying, I mean, the big, what I took out of what you said too, there's everyday withdrawals would be one of the big pros
Yes.
to live. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Everyday withdrawals, no daily loss limit, no consistency rule, right? If you're getting same day payouts, there's no consistency.
So if you've
You're
made it to
still
the
able.
point of being considered for the live account and you actually get it, there's really no rules on the account. You can do whatever you want with it. At
No.
that point, you're kind of trusted by you
Right.
guys to trade that account.
Right.
Okay.
And
Good
you'll
info.
work directly with us or a risk manager. Like, if you were on a 50K account, max, 5 or 10, 10 contracts, right? You'd be able to, if you showed consistency and you have a larger balance in there, we have no problem increasing that to 15, 20 contracts, if you start to become a trader trading larger size, right? As long as we have the data to, show that, you're capable of handling that amount of funds in the account, we will have no problem increasing your parameters for contract size as well. So that is one thing that we will keep. I don't want to say that's a restriction. I just
No,
mentioned a lot of restrictions removed, so I want to say that that one is in place.
for sure.
And I think it should be, of course, because we're not going to let somebody with a couple $1,000s trade 20 contracts right on a live account
Right.
right off the rip at least.
Right.
So that is something that our risk managers or ourselves, if we work with you directly, we'll be able to work with you with and stretch as well. So those
Cool.
four things are the benefits I see.
Yeah. Since we're still talking about live accounts, one more thing. Can we talk at all about what you were talking about, mixing in maybe some option stuff on the house side that also
Yep,
helps you guys stay profitable?
for sure. So that's another thing. So yeah, a lot of people like to say, what are the ways that these firms are able to monetize? So another thing that we have in place to do is a lot of firms, what they'll do is they'll hedge against their traders as well. You want to be able to hedge yourself. So if you have a bunch of live accounts, and I don't think a lot of people really talk about this, but if you have a bunch of traders live, yes, you trust them, right? But if all of your traders are long and there's a big drop in the market,
You're screwed.
you're on the losing end still, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like the trader is as well, but the firm as well. So we have, different measures in place where, when there's a certain percent allocated towards long, we might take a hedge. And that could look like two different things. It could look like us, shorting something on the other side of the market, right? But in the form of maybe buying put options or maybe selling calls, something like that. Because originally, again, we are options traders. We've traded options for over 6 years now, and we are very fluent in different option strategies, spreads as well. Low risk spread strategies that you can do. So that's something that we haven't been able to test. Obviously, we're brand new. We don't have any traders on live yet. Of
Right.
course, nobody's
Right.
gotten to that many payouts.
But I
But
think
we
that's an
have these
interesting
things in
idea.
place and ready
You know
to
what I
go.
mean? I like that because it diversifies you guys even out of futures, like I said to you before, and moves
Exactly.
you into a different market where you can hedge and appropriately balance, the capital that the company is
Right.
working with to keep the lights on and make sure everybody's taking their payouts. So, all right, I think that's good on the live account stuff. Any other thoughts that we want to share on the live account? I want to circle back to some of the rules and in passing the
Um,
combines too, passing the
no, not
challenges.
really. I mean, I do want to hammer in. That's the number one thing we're looking for here at the firm. We're looking to move traders to live. Like we do feel that we will be able to monetize a larger percent than these other firms are doing off of our live traders, and we do see that as a key part of the business. And we have well, myself and my partners are probably going to get involved in this, but I have a couple other projects as well where just the data alone from that is something else that can be monetized. I won't touch on that yet, I guess, but I do have two other businesses that link into kind of the way that the data that we get here or trades that are being taken here can also be monetized, or and not in a negative way at all, helping other people, or using the data to create a automated strategy, etc. Right?
I know, dude. People
It
hear
would
you saying you're
further
going to
help
sell
us.
the data, and the data they think you're
No, no,
Facebook or
no.
something
Yeah.
like that. You know what I'm saying?
No, no, no. I'm not selling like your personal data. I'm not doing anything, like that. I'm not
It's the
leaking
trade
trades.
data, everybody. Just to be clear,
Yeah,
it's the trade
exactly. So
data.
like,
Yeah,
some trades you're taking, etc., like that,
yeah,
and we have no problem bringing on some of those live traders to those projects as well. So it is
yeah.
not like we're not just taking your data. We do own the data, and all these firms do own the data, right? But
Of course.
we're not taking that and running. We'd love to have these traders a part of these other businesses that we are working on as well. And I just want to throw that out there as well, because I think that's key for live traders to know too.
So, what do you? Before I go into some of the questions, and that was well said. Before I go into the questions about the challenge, what do you think some of these other firms are doing wrong? I want to open that as a question for a second of a discussion, because you're very vocal on Twitter, which I like. You don't
Yeah.
shy away from stating your opinions, which I think, like you said, is needed. I do some work with some CFD firms and stuff like that, and I like that the CEO of the company be front facing. So, what do you think some of these firms are doing wrong, and maybe why do you think? Example, like Apex, a lot of people gave them shit for having that video thing be something that needed to be done. You want to,
Yeah.
point at any
So
things of areas that you could see improvement in the next couple of years
this
in the space?
For sure, and this kind of pertains to even this instant funding model, and what competitors or those emerging might do as well, and how I think we separate ourselves. I think there's a very key difference between attracting customers for the longevity of the business and attracting customers for a short-term vision, right? Or just to grab the market. And if you're using the latter and you're going for that short-term vision, or heavily discounting things, a bunch of account resets each day, due to problems that you have, not being able to handle scale, and just constantly getting a lot of new signups, for a discounted price, not having the right customer support in place, et cetera, et cetera. You're just pushing your problems to a later point. And that's what I feel like a company like Apex had. They kind of were growing, 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 growing. And there becomes a point where these businesses start to become like plateaued or stagnant. It's a couple years usually down the road, uh, based on our data. And if you're not able to have the proper systems in place, you have what's called like legacy code. That's what like our developers say as well, where it's tough to edit everything you have and move everybody over when the database is so big, right? So
Mm.
a company like Apex, they most likely, in my opinion at least, didn't have a lot of these risk parameters and rules really being checked with an automatic system. And when you get to hundreds of thousands, millions of clients, which they have there, of course, you're not able to sustain that, right? You don't know what's going on. You might be approving payouts that people aren't following the rules, or you might be denying ones that people are following the rules, which is even worse, right? And that's when you get people going on Twitter, going on Instagram, and spreading all these lies, these rumors, all this stuff, or even just telling the truth about how the company is operating, right? There's misinformation because you didn't set yourself up from the beginning. So that's what I see right now in the space happening with some of these firms who didn't set themselves up. And that's what we learned from as well, which takes me back to how long we've been building on this and why I think it's important to look at the data that comes from some of these other companies. We're learning from their mistakes. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, right? We're trying to switch some the wheel, or Wheeland got me on this one. He said, "Isn't the?" I said, "We just want to add rims to it." He goes, "Isn't the rim the wheel?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." So we're not trying to reinvent the tire,
Yeah, yeah.
Wheeland. We're trying to switch rims every day, and have new things to give our customers as well.
Yeah,
But you're not able to do that. You're not able to change things around if you have legacy code. If you don't have something that's easily able to be changed. So
that's
again,
100%
the
the truth,
problem
bro.
is a lot of
We've
these
seen that
companies were.
in other industries
Yep.
too. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, we see that in a lot of other industries.
No, 100%. And that's why, a lot of these companies, they've been around longer, sure, but it's harder for them to pivot because
Right.
of that, in my opinion. Again, I don't know their infrastructure, but that would be
Well,
the only
dude,
thing
I mean,
I'd think of mostly.
Michael said on stream on Top Step TV the other day that they are not doing a straight to funded thing. Took
Yep.
himself completely out of the race of ever getting into it. Because now if he ever does it, they're going to show that clip. So that guy, Brian Stonk, I know you probably follow Brian on Twitter too. Brian's pretty
Yep. Yep.
popular. He
I've
put
talked
this
with
like
Brian before.
he puts this edit together of why straight to funded is Michael's saying straight to funded's a bad idea. And in my head, like, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I never am. So I never would,
Yeah.
but I've learned through getting burned too many times of thinking like close minded to
Hmm.
think like, oh no, that model's not going to work. Where there's going to be
Right.
people like yourself that could be disruptive and make the model work. People said the CFD funding
Right.
space was never going to work when FTMO cut it through, and look how long they lasted, and then look at all the other firms there are now. You know what I mean? So you
Exactly.
need a disruptor. I think he's got to be a little more open minded. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think
But
that straight
that's a
to
good point though. Like FTMO, like they set themselves up for the longevity, right? So that's the
yeah,
difference between like prop firms, the forex ones that specifically that pop up just to make a quick buck or think that they're going to explode, but they don't have the longer term vision and risk parameters and checks and balances in place to survive.
it's a great point.
And that's the
It's
problem with these influencers. I don't think a lot of them were taking it as businessmen or as uh analytic, like taking the analytical approach, right? And just thought it's the new popular thing. I can make some money here.
Can you give me more detail on that so I can understand exactly what you mean?
So like a lot of these forex prop firms, right? They didn't survive because they weren't sustainable, or
They were
they
like
weren't
month to
solvent
month. They were
enough,
bringing in a lot of money, but they would pay out a lot of money. They were, yeah, they didn't have a lot of cash in
right?
reserve, so they could go insolvent fast.
Or you don't know where that money was being. We'll never know, right? We don't have their books,
Of
right? So you don't
course.
know if they were taking money themselves, right? Like our business right now, like we don't intend to pay ourselves anything for at least 6 to 9 months. We're leaving everything in the business. We know that we want to be able to be constantly improving everything that we do. We want to be sustainable. We want to be able to offer new things to traders. We want to be able to do partnerships with other companies as well. We want to have a very honest and transparent brand as well. And that takes, a lot of additions, and, you're going to need funds to do that as well. So, if
Hell
you
yeah.
want to last for the long term, don't go for that quick buck. And, that's kind of how I see ourselves.
Basically, some of these CFD firms were run by young kids, bro. I mean, we're young, but they
Yeah.
were younger than us. And like, they don't know how to
Right.
balance the books. They're not going to hire the right people. They're going to make mistakes the first time.
Exactly.
It's natural. And they'll learn. And, hopefully some of them will have a reputation in the future. Some of them won't. You know what I mean? It'll be what it'll be. But I think you guys going nowadays, bro, people buy people. People will buy from Tradeify because they like you. They buy from Top Step because they like Michael. Like people
Right.
buy people. So you've got to have a brand. You've got to have a face on it. You know what I mean? And I think that's a huge thing that I agree with you on. So yeah, I mean the Twitter beef we
Speaking
could
about Michael, that tweet
yes.
that was the tweet I was referring to. So if anyone wants to check that out, feel free to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. I
That's
mean Brian gets a lot
I
of views, so
basically
Brian,
went over
Brian
the
everybody probably saw it.
yeah. I went over the same thing though, and it's funny because Michael actually responded and he said all good posts. It's thought provoking. I kind of called him
He
out on
did
a
say
couple
that. I saw
things.
that.
Like
Yeah, no, I saw
I
your
called
post.
him
It
out
was
on a
good.
couple things we said, and I listen. I think he's the godfather of the space. I'm happy to go back and forth. I'm not going to hammer the guy.
Right.
Hard, whatever. But we'll butt heads here and there. But
Yeah.
I'm all for anybody who's been in the space a long time and being connected with them. So I'm happy to give feedback. I hope he gives feedback, to us in the future. And we're I'm grateful to him at the end of the day. He made the space, and I hope this business is something that continues to thrive for years and years, of course. So we
And
need
it'll
honest people like that. He is very
100%.
transparent. They do have a different like look over there and a different way of doing things. So it's definitely in line with longer term, goals, which is what we hope to do as well.
Yeah, 100%. Um talk to me about the rules. I think a lot of people get caught up in the consistency rule. We talked about the payout caps. Consistency rule is probably the other main rule to follow.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys are working on an updated dashboard. What are some of the
Yes.
tips that you would give to traders as the CEO of the company to passing these things, following a 20% or even a 50% consistency rule? I'm sure you've
Yeah.
seen some successful characteristics, across random people that you could point to and say, because you're studying their data, if you do this, you're more likely to win. Is there any like insight that you could give us? Maybe like your day win rate matters than your trade win rate, or your trade win
Right.
rate needs to be this number. Do you have any insights you could share with us like that?
So yeah, I mean, the funny thing is I'm probably one of the only guys I still trade live almost every day on YouTube still, which is funny. And I'm still and everybody says, "Oh, it's counterproductive, if you make money." No, we're not thinking about that. I'm here to teach people, how I look at the charts, etc. From my history, trading futures, it's really all about the R to R and the times that you're trading, right?
Okay.
Futures are so it's funny because if you rewind, a couple years ago, NQ trading at, I don't know, I'd have to look, right? It's 20K now, but NQ trading at, I don't know, 13K, 14K, right?
Sure, sure.
A 1% move is 140 points, right? Or,
Yep.
it's a much smaller move than it is now. Now you're looking at 200 points, etc. So that differential right there is a lot of money because they didn't change the amount that NQ gives you per point, right? But
Right.
1% is still 1%. So now it's a higher dollar amount because of that. So I think a lot of people need to focus on maybe trading micros more than they do with, just trying to get that quick flip on, NQ or ES. It's if they're starting out. Myself personally, I will say I trade NQ mostly, and I do go for, about, 6 to 10 points, and then I trim it, or I trail it and let it ride. But when you're going for those, and there's tons of instances that happen to me like this, when you're going for those, 10 points or so, that can happen in like a minute, 2 minutes now. And it's pretty crazy. So if you want to be able to find something that you're able to kind of ride out rather than doing like one NQ contract or something, 10 micros is really the way to go, because at that point you're able to scale out of the position, hold some of it, and not get that FOMO from closing too early, right? So I think the micros are a big thing that a lot of people overlook, simply because they want to fast forward, they want to get to that instant gratification, right? Take it slow, right? Take it slow, guys. If you're getting some of these instant funding accounts, you're skipping the phase that normally people wouldn't take seriously. So
And they
take
would
this
slam it.
chance.
Right. And they would try to pass it really fast. Now you don't have to do that. So it's
Exactly.
better to just go into this with the right approach. So do you
Right.
like,
And,
because I
and
like,
and to that, I do want to
yeah,
make one comment. I'm sorry,
yeah.
but
No, no,
the
go.
it's funny because, to your point there, you start there, so you want to take the right approach. It's almost as if the eval is conditioning you to not take the right approach when you go to the funded. And that was another point that
Debatable.
I'm not sure if I said that.
100%. No, it's a great
Yeah.
point. It's a great point. People will argue it,
It's
but I
almost
understand exactly what you're
it's
saying.
fluffing you the wrong way, right? Like
It's
it's rubbing you the
very
wrong
valid
way.
point.
It's
Very
instilling
valid point.
bad habits. Yeah. And
100%.
again, we offer those types because that is what is in the space now. And
Of
there are
course.
people who trade it
And I
right.
understand one,
And
like you said, you want to be the one-stop shop where people like you and they like the company just
exactly.
stay all here. Yeah. So, okay. So that answers the question. The great tip on position sizing. And you mentioned time of day. Let's just circle back to that. And then I want to circle
Yep.
back to the consistency rule. So
Yep.
time of day, what were you saying about that specifically?
I actually love the opening drive. I actually love the opening drive play. Like I go live. I'm usually live every day. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do it. I took off a couple days this week because I was sick, and I might not do it every day now, just so busy with everything else. But from what I've done, I usually have traded like 9:20 to 10 o'clock. I find like that opening drive, 9:30 to 9:35, you can get some very consistent plays. A lot of people trade the orb, the
Of
breakout
course.
of pre-market highs, pre-market lows,
Yep.
for the most part, or the opening range breakout on it depends what time frame, right? If you use the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 15 minute. But if you use the pre-market levels, where I would usually trade options before, and you might, when you get a break, you get like a little fake out and then it dumps. That little fake out is enough for me on futures now, because that little fake out, that 50-cent move on QQQ or whatever it might be, correlates to a couple $100 trading NQ or trading a few
Yep.
contracts of MNQ, right? And that's good
Yep.
enough for me. So it's almost better futures using strategies that I would with options, because I'm actually able to make money that I think is good enough in a much quicker fashion, and then still raise my stops to be able to capture more of it later
And
on,
then you can
which
trail
is
if you
how I
want.
would
Okay.
trade options. But when you're trading options, you have another battle to fight, which is time.
Yep.
So
So
that's
you're
why I
not
think
trading
futures are great.
pre-market, you're trading
No.
market open, but you are using some
Yes.
pre-market levels. And that's what you're meaning by time of
Exactly.
day. Okay. So because are you
Exactly.
seeing a lot of
Occasionally,
people? Yeah.
occasionally I will trade, 9:20, right before the open. Like for if I see a good level, like if I see us topping out at a pre-market zone, and I think, right at the open we're gonna get a flush, I'll put an order in, before the market open. But I will definitely define my risk to like no more than like $100, something
Right.
like
Keep it
that.
tight.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's an easy way where you can get in a trade early based on data you're seeing pre-market, be able to capture that 9:30 candle, but not blow yourself out of the water because you have a defined stop of a certain amount of dollars, right? And
Right.
and the liquidity, the difference is between news and the market open. There is liquidity. There is a huge move at 9:30, but there's liquidity on all those orders. At news, there's not. So Your stop, if you put it at 100, it might go to 110, whatever,
Yeah.
even if it gets blown out. But
Yep.
if you do that during like a news candle, you'll be down
It,
$400.
it could be worse, right? Because
Yeah.
there's no orders. Okay, so good answer there on the time of day. We talked about the micros.
Yeah.
Back to the consistency rule. What do you recommend for people like when they say like I don't really get it. Why do I have to do that? Because like I have a kind of an approach in my mind, and I want to lead with this
Yeah.
question into my like tips on passing a 50K and getting a payout. I want to talk specific
Yeah.
about that because I think that's realistic for people.
Sure.
But let's just go to the consistency rule for a second. Do you have any tips that you would say is like, hey, if you're really trying to follow it and make it easy for yourself, just think this.
Yeah, a lot of people, I will say, like a lot of people, they go for these big days, and you're kind of hurting yourself a bit because if you have a big day initially,
No,
especially
you
or
are
at
hurting
any
yourself.
time,
You screw it. I already did that on my first one.
exactly. But it happens sometimes, right? There's a pro. So in this business, for every pro, there's a con, and every con, there's a pro. That's how you get the perfect balance, right? And you need the perfect balance because that's how you're able to, you wouldn't be able to offer $2,000 payouts every 2 weeks for a $90 cost if you didn't have certain cons and certain
Of
pros to
course.
match, right?
Of
So
course.
the consistency rule, I will touch on that. When you go to instant funding, we didn't have that initial phase. So because you don't have that, yes, it's going to be a little bit more, but the consistency rule is going to be a little bit more in place. 20% instead of that 30. We have a 30 uh 30 it's funny because now all I look at is the instant funding. I'm like 30, 35. My God, 35. My gosh.
35.
I don't even know like our own plans. Nope. I will say like I'd say like 80% of people are going with the like instant funding. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't even think about it.
You
Every
don't even
question
think
I'm
of it.
asked these days is instant funding, instant
No, no,
funding.
no.
I'm like
Dude, it's a lot to
getting some of the
remember.
like growth and advanced account rules. So
Yeah.
anyway, we have a
So
35% one there.
yeah.
And some companies have 30, 40, 50, etc.
Yep.
This forces you to trade more consistently over a period of days than just have a windfall trade or trade news. And a lot of companies allow news now, right? We allow news as well. Is that good for you? Possibly. Can you abuse it? Yes. Can it hurt you? Yes. Can it help you? Yes. So there's pros, there's cons, right, to doing it. But we don't want to see you, just taking that trade, making a lot of money, and then, being able to take a payout there. That's gambling, right? These companies, the reason for rules, and this is a main point I want to say, the reason that companies put rules is these challenges and these evaluations can all be gamified. So you have to fight against that, right? What does that mean? If you're trading at home and you go long, right? And you call up Sally down the road and you're like, hey, you go short, I'll go long. We can milk this company for a payout. When you hit that, there's rules in place to prevent that. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because as a company, you have to think of any way that people can get around the rules you put in place.
Right.
And
Because
there's
there's always
people
going to
who
be
think
somebody
about this
trying to
all
get a
the
leg
time.
up on you. Yep. I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I could have an operation where I'm at my house here, my neighbor across the street is there, my other neighbor over there, my other neighbor there, and I'm like, we're all on a Zoom call. And
Right.
I'll never know as a firm that you guys are
No.
doing this stuff. Like there's tools in place where you can kind of see when orders are placed at the same time. But during the open, especially if you do it at the open, you'll never be able to tell
Right. It's
because
really
that's
hard.
where everybody's doing these orders, right?
So what are you
So
saying? Are you saying that the consistency rule kind of fights against this?
yes, exactly.
And
Because let's in that case, right? If there's four of us, two of us would probably fail, two of us would pass or something, right?
mm-hmm.
You'd have to do it again. You'd have to do it again. You'd have to do it again. That's the point of the consistency rule, in my opinion, because otherwise you'd be able to gamify things. That isn't the point of it for a trader, but that is the point of it on the business end, right? For a
Which makes
trader,
sense. It does make sense.
yes. For
Yeah.
a trader, we want to see people being consistent. And that is why we have the consistency rule as well, because we want to move traders live. We want to see them taking profits. We don't want to see them just gambling these accounts. Because at the end of the day, we don't have data until you're trading with us for months, right? We don't know exactly what you're doing until we analyze months of data. Somebody might perform really well when the market's going straight up for a month or 2 months or 3 months. But when that fourth month hits, they don't know what they're doing and they blow it up.
Or even just like look at
It's
gold.
like the
Gold went
guy
on
in
a
the
tear.
beginning I
They can
said.
make a yeah. Gold's been on a tear. A lot of people have been making money trading gold, but it hasn't
Exactly.
been that way all the time. You know what I mean? A lot of people have lost
Yeah,
money on gold for years when it hasn't made new all-time
exactly.
highs. All right, so let's talk
Yeah,
about a
I'm just
50K challenge. I
pulling up
wanted to
that
do
chart
this.
actually too. That it's crazy, man. Yeah,
It's a
gold,
new highs
uh,
today.
insane.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, kind of. It was in a giant flag for like 4 years.
Yeah,
Like if
bro.
you look at the monthly chart, and there was a
Yep.
huge move up. Yeah, so that's something I've seen a lot of people post too. And that, to my point too, some of these firms like the forex firms, like they didn't have tools in place for like specific instruments either. And I've seen a lot of people go on social media and say, these payouts were denied, and I traded, all I did was trade gold and I made all this money. So that's why I brought this up, because when you mention gold, it's like some of these companies, like instruments that aren't commonly traded, they're not checking them as much, or doing
No,
their DD on it,
that's
right?
exactly
And
what
when
it
you have
is.
a huge move like this, which is unprecedented
It can
for
blow you out.
weeks at a time,
It can screw you
it kind of throws you off guard. So you got to have
on
these
the
checks
company
and
side, right?
balances.
Right. All
Yeah,
right, so let's talk about this 50K because I wanted to like run through this with you and just get your take
do
on
it.
it. So a lot of people are buying 50K, even 100K instant funded accounts. I got a couple of people buying 150s too. You buy a 50K, first time you can take a payout is $2,600. You take that $2,600 and take a payout, you're basically down to your last $500 of drawdown, correct?
Right.
If you
So
put 2 grand out.
if you took yeah, so if you took the full amount, yes. Now, however, the minimum, personally, it depends. When I used to do firms, I
Yeah.
think there's a difference between taking the max and the minimum depending on what your goal is, right? There's people who want to recoup all their losses, or not losses, but their could be losses, right? Or fees,
Sure.
whatever you want to call it.
Sure. Yeah.
So they'll take that max and they won't mind having, only 500. I do think that's kind of shooting yourself a little bit, because 500 is very tough to work with, if you have one or two bad days. But
Yep.
if you want to just recoup that, completely get it. I think, and this isn't just because I don't want people, and I know there's going to be people who comment, he just doesn't want us to take the max payout, but we do have a minimum of 1,000. So, instead of taking that 2,000, maybe leave yourself 15, take 1,500, take 1,750, right? Or something like that. So you can leave yourself with, 750 or 1,000 wiggle room, because if you're trading consistently to get there, that's probably an extra day or two at least that you give yourself to get back on the horse and get towards that payout. And you already are then at a place where you're working towards that second payout, right? The goal is to get to live funded, because you're going to get same day payouts. You're going to get much better. You're going to have much less rules from us as a firm and much more support. So, it depends on your goal. If you're
But
strictly
you
looking
really
to
want people
recoup those
thinking live
fees,
account. If you're thinking live account, don't take the full payout,
right,
is basically what he's saying,
right.
everybody. Don't
Or
take the
if you
full
have
thing.
multiple,
Or if you
mix
have
it up,
multiple,
right? Take the full amount here, 1,500 there, 1,000 here, whatever you want. If you're
that's
just
good
trying to
advice too.
recoup everything, and you don't care about blowing it and doing it again, take the full
Yeah.
amount by all means, right?
Yeah.
But if your
Yeah.
goal is to be able to do this, long term, instead of just trying to, get to that first payout, take it, fail it, redo it, get the first payout, take it, fail it, right? You know, that's not somebody that we're looking for live. So, we're not going to be watching. By all means, you can keep doing that route, right? But we're not looking for you to go live probably with us, because, we know that you're constantly just, after one, you're just
You
eating
just don't
it
have the
or
right
not
habits
taking it.
yet. You might not ever get
Yeah.
them, but you don't have them yet. All right. So that's great. Great
Yep.
little explanation there of what to do with the payouts too, because I think a lot of people had questions about that. This has been
Yeah.
good, bro. I mean, the hour kind of flew by. I think we're going to need a part two. Listeners, I always ask you guys, if you have questions, make sure you put them in the chat or put them in the comment section here on YouTube. You can email me. You can reach out to Brett. Brett will let me know. We're not too far from each other, so we can definitely sit down and do another podcast, even in person.
Yeah.
Before we finish, though, Brett, going into the rest of this year, I want to know two things. Are there any stats? I kind of asked this earlier, but are there any stats that you can share with us on pass fail rates and things like that? Or like for a new trader that's maybe taking their first combine, on how many they should expect they have to take before they pass, anything like that? It's first thing. And then second thing, any exciting new stuff coming from Tradeify that you can let us know now to kind of tease us a little bit?
Yeah, to your first question, we just haven't been around long enough. I don't want to throw numbers out there, right? I mean, I,
Fair.
I know, an average of maybe the overall market, but because we have this new product, I can't
Yeah.
give you those defined answers with certainty. I will say, like, our goal for using our data fully, especially with these straight to sim funded plans, is to wait until about a 3 month period, because by the 3 month period, that's when you have the initial wave of people who might have taken a couple and are taking it serious now. That at the end of the second month or into the second month, that's when you'll start to see how good they're doing, if they're getting payouts, etc. You'll have the people who are waited for a couple payouts that are serious traders to come in,
Right. So you have better
right? Because
data
they
at that
wanted to
point, for sure.
exactly. So
Yeah.
so until we get to like that 3 to 4 month range, basically January, or December, we don't. I don't want to say anything, and I have no problem being transparent about that either. I will say that in general, and this is public knowledge, 1 to 2% of day traders are successful, right? That data kind of correlates to the prop firm business in general. How many
Really?
people are taking payout now with the straight to sim funded? It is it's a higher number, obviously, because you're skipping half
Sure.
of it, than
Sure.
switching. But I'll leave you with that, and I'd love to follow up on that, towards the end of the year.
We can do that.
To your second question, we are working on getting other data providers. We're looking at Rhythmic, looking
Oh,
at
good.
getting Quantower, some other platforms that users
Nice.
love to use. Um, but really, we're going to be fleshing. We do have that dashboard update coming next week, which we meant to have right away, but we needed to work out the data being transposed there from our backend. We want to. I do have a trade journal platform as well that I
Oh,
think we're
nice.
going to be integrating with this. So, the tough thing for traders right now is they're taking these prop firms. Some of them aren't learning from it, right? They're gamifying it. They're treating it like a game. We want people to be educated on it, right? So if you're able to have a tool where you can journal, you can see your statistics from it as well, or you're able to at least get data back from it. Maybe you don't journal, but you get pointers based on how you traded. It'll be helpful. So we're all here to help
100%.
our traders, our live traders. We'll have access to some premium stuff like that as well. That's what we have in the works. Again, nothing I can say publicly right now because I don't exactly know how it's fleshed out, but that
We
is
should plan
coming
to do
towards the
another
end of the year.
podcast when you have a live trader too, bro.
Yeah,
We could do
I would love
that'd
to.
be cool. Yeah.
Would love to.
Okay.
And yeah, and just for a future, you said, people ask questions. Would love to just come on here and do a little Q&A, whenever, shorter
We can
one
definitely
or
do that.
anything.
And also,
It'd be
everybody,
awesome.
Brett, I'm going to put Brett's Twitter link in the description so you guys can connect with him. He's very easy to get a hold of. So if you have any questions, he's there. He's very front facing, like we said many times. So if you have any other thoughts that you want to throw at him, I'm sure he'll be open to entertaining it on Twitter.
For sure.
Cool. All right, Brett.
I'm
Thank you,
all for
bro.
the love and I'm all for the banter. Either or. Love or
Uh,
Warcraft, man.
Dude, I really, I mean it. I wish you guys a lot of success. I'm looking forward to growing with you guys and helping you guys push the needle forward here. I'm excited about the instant funded model, so this should go well. So, listeners, we really appreciate you guys staying all the way through. I really appreciate you, Brett, for giving us some really good answers, a lot of good information. I got a lot of notes here, so I'm excited to see the clips from this one. But for now, everybody, we'll put a pin in it. Make sure you check the
Sure.
description to today's video. We got Brett's links. Everything's down there for you guys. And if you have any questions, of course, hit the comments and let us know. But for now, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you're subscribed. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate you, brother. And I'll see you guys all in the next episode.